Testing, testing. Oh, here we go.
Hello.
Hello.
Testing. There we go.
Hello.
You got to speak right into it.
Okay. Hi, everyone. If you'd like to come and take a seat, we're about to have some speeches and a panel.
Yep, I think people are slowly coming. All right, great. We need like a sound or a ringer. Or
Hello, hello. Is mine on?
Yeah. I don't know if we can get...
All right, everyone. When you're ready, did you want to come over and we've got some introductory remarks to make.
Tutoring voices or something like that, honestly.
And like,
all right, students.
we have this internal...
Yeah, no, absolutely. Channel that energy as best as you can. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, completely. Here comes everyone. All right, really good stuff.
It comes in handy sometimes.
I don't think we have enough seats for everyone, but there will enough be plenty of space to stand around the side. So, yeah, there's a lot of people here. So, yeah, beautiful. That's great, lovely. All right, okay, people are roaming in now.
Thank you, guys.
Amazing stuff.
There's some more chairs and tables over here, which are for board games, but you can also sit there right now if you like.
And it sets you up for board games later, so you just get ahead of the curve. So it's great. All right. Does someone want to start?
Should be. Shuffle over. Yeah, done.
We just have to awkward this down on stage. Does anyone have a good joke? Yeah. No. I think we can get started.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and welcome to the MAGPIE launch party. We are so happy to see everyone. We have a lot of exciting things planned today, but first I'm going to pass over to Eddie, who's going to do an acknowledgement of country.
Hello, everyone. My name's Eddie Patterson. I'd like to acknowledge traditional owners. We're here on unceded Wurundjeri Woiwurrung land. I'd like to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I'd like to also acknowledge traditional owners' custodianship of this place, this land, for many thousands of years. Thank you so much for being here. Before we go on, I'd like to ask everyone up here to introduce themselves. So I'm one of the co-directors of MAGPIE. It's such a delight to look around and see a lot of people who've been involved in helping us set up this event, and a lot of people involved. It's also slightly surreal for me because I attended a LARP about a week ago, and there's a lot of people I saw dressed in medieval outfits around about a week ago in different clans. Yes, person at the back. Yes, it's great, isn't it? So there are communities within communities here, and one of the big things that we're going to try and do with MAGPIE is actually, the project of bringing people together and making connection. And so, with that said, I'd like to hand to Cass.
Yeah, awesome. Hello, everyone. Lovely to have so many people here. We have well and truly exceeded expectations, the amount of people who are going to be interested, which is honestly incredibly heartening for like a research initiative just starting off. My name is Dr. Cass Bachman. I'm a senior tutor in media and communications. I'm the deputy director, so technically I'm the only, I should be lower than everyone else because I'm not quite the same level, but still very much involved. And it's been really incredible seeing this event come together. We have a lot of things for people to take care of and have a look at over the next couple of hours, including the posters, have a bunch of incredible independent games over here, arcade games, board games. We'll be talking about those in a bit more detail. Yeah, but amazing to have so many people here, so many lovely faces in the crowd.
Thank you, Cass. Hello, everyone. It's lovely to see you all. I'm Madeline. I'm the research assistant at the moment with MAGPIE. So if you're low, I'm like on the floor, right? No, honestly, it's been such a pleasure working with these incredible people on the stage with me who all care and love about games and game cultures as much as I do. And we're all incredibly grateful and excited to be given the opportunity to start building something like this. And I myself am a PhD student who's almost finished in computing and information systems. I will submit supervisors that are here. Almost. But yes, no, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to continue to meet and collaborate with a lot of people in this room. And like Cass has already said, please enjoy the range of games we've got to play and check out the posters and have a chat for sure. Thank you, guys. And over to Lucy.
Thank you, Maddie. I'm Lucy. I'm one of the co-directors of MAGPIE. I'd say in the scheme of like height level, I'm probably slightly below Molly Ann.
What have I started? Oh no.
But yeah, I work here in Melbourne Connect, actually, just upstairs. I'm a lecturer in human-computer interaction, and in particular, I work on games. And like everyone has said, I'm just so happy to see so many people here who I am sure love games as much as we all do. And I'm just stoked that we can all come together on something that we can all agree is awesome. So thank you very much. I'll pass to Molly Ann.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Marley Ann Butt. Yes, that is my surname. My greatest goal in life is to become an associate professor, so people can call me Aspro Butt. And yeah, this has been amazing to work with the community and foster collaboration among different sectors. But also, I think what has been really important to me always that I find in the communities that I really love here is our shared values and how we can kind of bridge different sectors or even different disciplines and methods together by kind of valuing and centering shared values. With that, I hope everyone has an excellent time and continue to be excellent to each other today and in an ongoing way. And we have canapes and drinks. We've got the arcades from Free Play. Thank you, Louis. We've got the game demos over here, curated by Sabby, as well as some board games donated by Melissa Rogerson and Pause Menu. And we'll also have some of the researchers standing next to the posters where you can have a chat with them as well and ask them some questions. We're going to have an opening talk from Paul Callaghan, followed by a panel with Chad Toprak, Lizzie Kane, Ginny Maxwell, and Dakota Bacher. So we'll be having that now, but just before then, I just wanted to note that there are bathrooms just outside around the corner. If you want to have a bit of a quiet space, the cafe is pretty quiet right now. You can pop out. There's also some more tables and chairs around the other side of the cafe too. Any questions?
Lecturer mode.
We'll see you all next week.
All right.
Should we pass on to Paul then?
Yep.
Yeah, so with that little welcome completed, I'd love to invite all of our speakers and guests to the stage. So we're inviting Paul and Chad, we're inviting Dakota, Lacey and Ginny. If you wouldn't mind joining me up here, we're going to chat for around about 20 minutes or so, and then everyone, we hope, can kind of get up and wander, have a look at the posters, have a play. Please, we don't mind you going and grabbing a drink and having a wander while we're speaking as well, so that's absolutely fine.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
What? I got my words. I wrote my thing. Yeah. Someone said 5 to 10 minutes. About 800 words. I think my answer is 300.
You're so far away. Yeah, the plant is a little bit. Worst case scenario, I can just lie down in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Just to be in the middle.
All right.
feel slightly like a prima donna asking for a lectern, but at the same time, I also really wanted a lectern. Thanks, everyone. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we're meeting and pay my respects to elders past and present, and also extend those same respects to any First Peoples who are here with us this evening. Thanks to the team for inviting me to speak at this launch of the Melbourne Academic Games, Play and Interactive Entertainment Group, which is happening during Melbourne Connect Innovation Week here at Melbourne Connect. My name is Paul Callahan. I'm the head of games and interactive at VicScreen. VicScreen, for those of you who don't know, is the Victorian Government's creative and economic screen development agency. We support a mix of people, infrastructure, projects and events, and we've been investing in digital games for just shy of 30 years. We also work across government to deliver the Victorian Government's screen strategy, which we're in the final year of at the moment, and that includes us collaborating with organisations like Creative Victoria, Global Victoria and Invest Victoria, and also the Australian Centre for the Moving Image. But I wasn't always with government. You know, I wasn't born straight into a government job, which is a blessing. And in the spirit of MAGPIE's research themes being around storytelling, design and participation, I thought I'd open this evening with a little bit of a story, or multiple stories that maybe connect to each other. Across those previous lives, I've been a programmer. I've also been a writer. My background is computer science. I've been an educator. I've designed early education games programs, and I've also taught undergraduate design and development at universities here in the UK. I've also been a curator and a festival director. I put together exhibitions and showcases and arts events, and I've led creative and culture delegations around the world. And my work at the British Council, notably to China and the Western Balkans for two very different environments. I've worked in industry, I've worked in education, and I've worked in government, all points of connection across people here and for MAGPIE as well. And when I run through all of that, I always feel very, very old. And it's interesting when I sort of think about getting older, because the majority of those experiences and where I found myself as government isn't necessarily what I thought I would be doing as a kid. I still remember very, very clearly, as I'm sure many people in this room do, my first exposure to what video games could do and could be. It was a game called Frost. If anyone whoops here, that'll make me feel really great. It was a game called Frostbite by Activision. Yes! Yes. Which was out for the Atari 2600. And I looked it up, and that game was released in 1983. So I would have been about 6. Yeah, 6. So I would have been about 6 or 7 years old. And the memory of that game and the memory of that event is really interesting to me, because when I kind of process it or think about it, there's more than just the game there. There's also how the game was set up. The console was sitting on the floor beneath a CRT television. It had 4 little stilt-like legs that it was sitting on. I can also remember where in relation to like the house that my friend had, my house was as well. So there's all these different connections. But it's something quite concrete, or it's a set of concrete ideas. It's a game in a specific space at a specific time. And then as I kind of roll through the years, we end up moving through all of the games that we've played that have formed us, and the jobs that we've had, and those years, and in my case, the continents and the countries as well. And sometimes it's easy to think of all of that as accretion, just things building upon each other and laying layers upon layers upon layers of things, with the past defining the future in the same way that the width of a Roman road defines the width of a space shuttle. But in trying to rethink that now, I'm starting to think of it more like a fractal, where the small parts of my experiences form systems that repeat and repeat at larger and larger scales, all the way up from that micro experience up to the macro. And I haven't quite figured this out because I've only just started processing it, but like, this might be my computer science training. But working in and around games is about thinking about systems. It's about thinking about relationships. And it's about how those relationships are mediated and experienced. So at the macro level, we start to orbit some of those key constituencies of what MAGPIE is engaging: ideas of government, industry, and academia. And some of us might be part of those groups. or parts of those groups in very distinct and very individualized ways. Others, like me, might have moved through them in lots of different ways. And then you internalize little bits and pieces of them, cobbling together some embodied and embedded sense of what each might mean, and then trying to express them as a person at the micro. But it's at that micro level you start to find things like curiosity, like making, like thinking, like exploring, like sensing. When you look around at the games that are here and the research topics, somewhere along the way, one person has gone, what does this look like? Or why does this happen? Or how does this happen? And then from there, you start to build relationships of ideas, of people, of objects, of places, of communities, of time. And in those relationships become systems of inquiry. They might become connections to grants and to funding bodies. They might become peer review and then networks connected to other networks. Eventually, maybe they'll evolve into policy, or they become foundational knowledge that we all accept as true, or they become the basis for further thinking and further inquiry. And I'm conscious as I'm talking, it makes it all sound incredibly linear, like A leads to B leads to C, which is sadly one of the perils of storytelling. We all know in these loops, in this fractal nature of life, there are branches and digressions and loops. And we're very lucky that we have an art form and a medium that lets us explore art form, those loops and digressions. And I have written here, maybe this speech would have worked better in Twine, but I'm not sure that is true or a very good joke either. But I do think that that's where groups like MAGPIE, projects like MAGPIE, is what they do is they surface those relationships, they surface those loops, they surface those branches and those digressions. They provide multiple entry points into how we can think about, how we can experience, how we can explore, and understand things that we are individually and collective interested in. A conversation with a new person might set off a new relationship, or it might change your understanding of an existing one. Playing a new game might open up your sense of what is possible for the medium as a whole, or it might just trigger something nostalgic deep inside your inner child. A piece of research might solve a complex policy problem, maybe this is just for me, that you've been struggling with, or it might be the building block for something even larger that your subconscious can work on in the background. It doesn't come to fruition for years and years. It's the micro and the macro, the fractal of a person and their interests within larger systems and networks. But always people, I think. The other great thing about groups like MAGPIE is they explicitly bring people together. People with shared visions around connections, around relationships, imagination, curiosity, sensitivity. These are all things that, for me, are the foundational building blocks of play and games. Again, the micro and the macro. What's inside interacting with what's outside in the world. Or maybe not. But I want to finish up. With a bit of a quote. I just finished reading Systems Ultra by Georgina Voss. And the conclusion of the book sums up a lot of this for me, and it's also far more eloquent than I have been. But in the conclusion of the book, they write, "This then, I hope, is a real systems engagement, not a literacy which is too similar to the forms of mapping which a systems approach encourages, nor a rubric which draws on a mode of analysis that carries the same authoritative sheen that characterizes so much of what systems already embody. Instead, I hope for a sensibility in approaching systemic forms, embodied, visceral, critical, sometimes still, sometimes moving, sometimes furious, always curious, and which together can help us live in this complex world." In closing, I hope that the same sensibility animates all of you, and the connections that emerge from coming to this and hopefully future MAGPIE events, triggers new ideas, new relationships, connects the micro to the macro for you and your work. Congratulations once again to the team in bringing this together and for bringing all of us together as well.
Thank you, Paul. That was a delightful opening speech. Please join us. You're running away. Oh. No, please. We can't let you go. I know, we can't let you go so quickly. Paul thought he was going to get away. Not so quick. As you mentioned, I think one of the really key things that Magpie is trying to do is to absolutely bring people together, to make connections, to form and think about systems in new ways. And so I'm so delighted that these are some of the things that have been picked up in your opening remarks. One of the other things we've realized as well in conceiving of Magpie is not only are we interested in bringing people together, but we're of course super interested in learning about the perspectives of people that are not involved in the sometimes quite insular world of the university. And even in the university, when it is insular, we sometimes don't know each other. So it's about making connections across an institution and then across institutions and out into the community. So all the more reason for inviting a number of esteemed guests to our panel here to share some of their thoughts and experiences about, in a way, the types of values that a place, an institute like Magpie might embody, and you can tell that it's new because I don't know what to call it, and also, you know, thoughts around connections that we might make across communities, across institutions, across thinking. So if I can start, Dakota, with you, and we can move across the panel for thoughts on this. A couple of the things that Magpie is very, very interested in are around ideas of inclusion. Ideas of diversity in game design. We've seen amazing kind of innovations in First Nations game design, in disability-led game design. We have a couple of really amazing makers here and involved with Magpie as well. And so we're very interested in your thoughts about how you've managed to kind of connect the dots around diversity, inclusion, access in your world in games. So Dakota, starting with you.
Yeah, how did you solve it? Could you just
Yeah,
quickly?
yeah, that's fine.
Not solve it.
I can handle this one. So, I mean, you prepped me to introduce myself, and I haven't had a chance to do that, but I can do that as part of this as well. So, I'm a Gungari and Gubby Gubby man, and so I think that the easy cop-out answer is that I solve issues of diversity by forcing my way into spaces and holding the door open for other people to come in behind me. I think it's really important that we center people, and sometimes that includes centering the self, and sometimes that means centering others that are not you. And so that's a thing that I've had modeled to me by, you know, my elders, my family, people that I've come to know through my career. I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by people who have made space for me. And so making space for others and inviting them to the table to talk and share their perspective has just been really a natural part of the process for me.
Thank you. Chad, can I throw to you now? Yeah,
sure thing. So do you want me to do a quick?
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
quick
great.
intro.
So my name is Chad Toprak. I'm a first generation Turkish Muslim immigrant. And basically my background is in experimental game design, as well as independent curation. I guess I'm trying to think of like the moment that primed me to start thinking about these sorts of issues and trying to figure out why it's so important to me to make space for others. And it probably boils down to September 11 actually, and the shock and horror of that particular event and how that impacted my family. We ended up uprooting ourselves from Australia in 2003 and moving back to Turkey as a result. So having experienced something like that has a huge impact on you, and your whole world, like your perspective on the world, changes. And so, having experienced something like that, it's really important for me to be open and welcoming and enabling for others, and I think that sort of has really solidified my experience in sort of existing in this space and the sorts of things that I do. And so, yeah, like all throughout my professional career, it's been really important for me to make space for others and to include the voices that are systematically or institutionally like not allowed to exist in the space. Yeah.
Thank you, Chad. So in a way that are two different perspectives, obviously, but one in which, Dakota, you are making space for yourself to make space for others, to also allow, other people to kind of come behind you and enable that. And Chad, in a way, are you speaking about moments where you might kind of strategically give up space as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
And as well as create. Yeah. Wonderful. Lisi, may I bring you in at this point?
I come from a place of very, very similar to what you were saying, Chad, about this industry, the games industry. So I'm a practitioner. I've come from a production background. I also run an organisation called Girl Geek Academy, and the games industry is not kind to people that aren't, white men of power. I think that's been very, very clear for a very long time, and a lot of how it affects me and drives me is out of spite. I think a lot of the time, and it's honestly it's what has fueled me through the industry, just because I think we're capable of change. I think we're very capable of change. I think we're also very fortunate in a country like Australia. We have the room to experiment because we do have support from institutions like government and academia, and other countries don't have that luxury. But it has driven me in a lot of different ways from my game making practices. Also just from a place of, we don't want to see, same with film, you don't want to see the same, Fast and Furious 10 over and over again. Like, I want to be able to play different content. I want to be able to play different things and see different stories. And games are one of those tools that obviously there's empathy, there's all these different ways of being able to play that and see it and all that type of thing. And I think we're not quite there yet. The thing that I'm excited about in the future, though, is not just seeing diversity and inclusion treated like diversity and inclusion, but actually seeing it as excellence and actually seeing it as just as good as. And I think we're seeing that shift now, but in some areas we're also really, really far behind. It's something that really, really has fueled me. I think it's the only reason I'm still in this industry, because it's just really disappointing sometimes to see that it's the same mistakes that are being made, the same people are getting wealthy, and it's just, that's basically, you can probably tell I'm very amped up about it.
Spite's a great place to begin. Yes. Come on. If I could further this thought a little bit and maybe bring Ginny in here as well, and Dakota and Chad, feel free to jump back in too. It seems to be about not only creating the kind of structural, institutional conditions for creating change, but also, Lisa, you're talking about making changes to thinking how we make games, how we conceive of them, right? So how we think of representation differently, how we think of formal conventions differently. Ginny, can I bring you in here for your thoughts to sort of continue this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jeannie. I'm a video game curator at ACME, and I think when you were talking about this institutional and structural change that needs to happen, I was really thinking about the fact that I was thinking about my last 2 years at ACME and what I've observed and what I have done, and also what has been really hard to action and really, really hard to do. And, the important role that cultural institutions play is they're communicators, they're bridges, they connect artists, practitioners, creators to the general public. They give people ways in, but they are kind of inherently retrospective or outcome-based. The two ways that we work are loaning works that already exist or commissioning works, and all of that really tends, naturally tends to reinforce this status quo of oh, this person has a track record of producing things, so we can give them some money, they'll be able to produce another one, or well, this person's got this body of work, so they're worth celebrating. It's really, really to shift that quite authoritarian dynamic to be meaningfully inclusive requires a pretty radical rethinking of what a museum, how a museum operates, which is exciting work that I think I want to undertake and want to try and keep undertaking. But I think I see some like commonalities there between how the games industry works and like production funding and investment as well, in terms of who gets in.
And trying to create new networks without perpetuating old patterns. And
yeah, exactly. And create new like modes of working with like artists and creators that don't replicate these like power dynamics, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really, do you mind if I jump in? Yeah, super important and relevant point to make. And I feel like to be that person to bring forth those structural changes requires a lot of energy. And unfortunately, often the people who have those motivations and drives are either not enabled or supported by these institutions sometimes. And having to fight the hard fight, people end up like really burning out, and that's why often it's really important to surround yourself not with only colleagues within your own institution, but like, you know, this is a fantastic event to start building those bridges and connections, not only for the sake of solidarity, but for actual change, because I think each of us individually can only push things so far, but you know, it's like when we come together, I think our collective ability to bring change, and realizing that for some of us we face certain barriers and blockages that might not be there for people who are from completely different worlds, and sharing those struggles and challenges, I think, is incredibly important.
Paul, if I might draw you back into the conversation here, because part of your opening remarks were about how your individual experience has informed how you've navigated your career, in a sense, and always kind of coming back to kind of the potential of games to open up new conversations. If I can now invite you as well to think about and to kind of give your ideas around ways in which an institute, a research unit like MAGPIE can foster these sorts of connections. What should we be looking to do, as well as, of course, conversations like these? How do you kind of inform a kind of lasting relationships?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that has been sort of said. Like there are strategic challenges which are long term and which are frequently decades long, and requires individual energy and baton passing along the way, and I think you don't always, you know, sit beneath the tree that you plant as well. And so I think you need to bring in all of this kind of what is essentially frequently activism in cultural and creative and academic spaces. You have to have that long view. You have to be like, what is the change that is a decade, that is 2 decades, that is 3 decades, that I can only be a part of? What is my part of that now? And then you have to be tactical. You have to take the opportunities as they emerge in front of you. And you have to be able to like recognize them as opportunities. And this is not the right word to use, but be brave enough to like push against those things as well, and to take and I'm very conscious that I am the least diverse person on this panel to talk about it, but I, you know, in my position at Big Screen, those are things that I do think about. And so when the opportunity to design a new program or to implement a new piece of policy, those are tactical opportunities to be like, how do we bring new people in? So we have an emerging, you know, a project called Originate, which is for the focus of new ideas and new voices, explicitly designed through all of the parts of it to bring new and underrepresented groups into games. That was the design philosophy of it. And that was a tactical response that sat within our 4-year strategy, that sits within Vic Screen's larger 10-year DEI roadmap. And I think it's that again, those micro opportunities that you take connected to the what is the change I want to see in the world over the longer term, and how do I push, with and again, my privileged position, how do I open those doors and create those spaces and like be okay with the fact that it's going to be things I don't understand, and I think be comfortable with that, just for me. Yeah.
I think something that MAGPIE is really well positioned to do is like a lot of what artists need is just a bit of space and a bit of time. And I think people often, and like that can come in the form of production funding or in like a room to hang out in or like a few conversations. It like that looks a lot of different ways. But I think often from from inside the institution, institutions really overcomplicate it. Really, really overcomplicate it. And like try to, again, I think this like outcomes based, which is why I think Originate is such an amazing program, because it's not so like outcomes focused. And this idea of just like creating a space where people can come and give things a go and make what they are trying to make, and maybe not make anything, but where they feel welcome, actually like can make a really, really radical difference in like people's lives and in their creative practices, I think.
Chad and Dakota, you work together. How is it sort of forming teams within an organisation and making for change? And Chad, I'm really struck by your comment about, also as you're trying new things, as you're paving new directions, you can get tired too, and it takes a lot of energy. And Dakota also, acknowledging the cultural load that First Nations people often take when they're making change as well. I'm just also thinking about, again, strategies that you might have taken together within your organisation to kind of drive new direction.
Yeah, I mean, we constantly get fired up. We're in the games team, we're a team of 3, and we're only like 3 steps away from the CEO, which is quite fascinating and quite scary. But at the same time, you'd be surprised at how many barriers there are for us to actually get things to happen. And internally, we're full of ideas. We're passionate. We're driven. We sort of fire each other up. Where there's so much that we want to see and make happen. But I guess for us, it's like even for people like Dakota and I, the levers are invisible to us, and that can get really frustrating. And so, yeah, just trying to figure out how to enable all sorts of things within an institution itself can be quite tricky, because on one hand, you might be told that, transparency is really important, and that it's a value that an agency wants to push. But at the same time, when you seek those things out, all of a sudden they're not as transparent as they should be. So yeah, we're always wanting to bring forth change, and I think we do that quite well to the level of our abilities, to wherever we can stretch our influence within the agency. But yeah, like beyond that, I think we have so many ambitions and things that we want to see. But yeah, incredibly. Do you want to speak to?
Yeah, it's so much easier having people who are sharing your values and willing to kind of fight your fight with you. Yeah, we're trying to do stuff on your own is incredibly exhausting, and it's all well and good for you to give everything and then pass the baton, but you actually get a lot further by supporting someone else to do what matters to them and to you, and save that little bit of extra. It doesn't cost me as much to get fired up with Chad and Amelia as it would be to be on my own and feel like I'm the only one railing against the system and trying to make a difference. That kind of support network, which is exactly the sort of thing that MAGPIE is primed to provide, makes just it feel a little bit more possible, a little more tangible, that every little grain of sand that you do move actually matters and is building something. It's not just kind of getting blown away in the breeze all the time. But yeah, we will always run into these systems. Like, these are legacy systems. They were built by people who aren't us, and nobody really understands how they work or were supposed to work. And dismantling them takes really concerted effort from everybody, not just the people who are fired up, but the people who are standing around and watching also need to get their hands dirty and pitch in. It's not good enough to just not make the problem worse. Now you have to make it better.
Yeah, thanks, Dakota, and thank you, Chad, for your thoughts as well. I'm struck that we're almost out of time. So we've spoken a lot, but it's been a really fascinating conversation. We've spoken a lot about institutions and the connections that institutions might make and the things that MAGPIE might do. Just for closing remarks, I'd actually like to bring it back to experiences of play for a moment and actually think about whether there is a recent, or it might be, you know, a little bit further back as well. I remember Frostbite too. We're of this, Paul and I are of the same generation. But a play experience that actually maybe opens up a new conversation, or opens up a new collective experience, or opens up a new way of looking at the world. You know, our definition of games is very broad, and our definition of play is very broad. So feel free to interpret this really widely. Lisa, can I start with you right in the middle?
Oh, God. I'm going to talk about something that I love talking about, and that is a video game called Dota 2. And at the moment, right now, there is their big event of the year is happening, and it's the International, and it's their big, massive esports competition. And it's over this year. It's over in Copenhagen. I've been lucky to go to the one in Seattle one year, and it is like I love the Olympics. I really enjoyed that. But this is like, for me, it's the second coming, and it is like it is something that I think I was watching it again last night. And the thing that it's maturing every year, and I think that's really interesting to see, is the way esports is changing and everything. But I'm watching with my friends and having the same conversations we have when we, you know, watch the Olympics. But for me, it's what is very exciting about the industry is how unique it is and how much it changes all the time. And also this year, there's a lot more Australians involved. There's all these Australian casts, there's Australian players. And also for me, I don't even know half the players anymore, but I'm still really excited about it. And yeah, it's been really, really reinvigorating. They brought out a new hero for it, and I think already within like a month, there's like, it's been played for 150 years of time, which is like wild. And actually got talking about a game that I worked on called Armello, and we started calculating how many years that game has been played for. And I think it's over 1,000 years collectively that game has been played for. And that, to me, like thinking about it in that context is very, very different and very, very unique and exciting. So that's my current thing. So Dota.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. Ginny, may I ask you to reflect next?
If either of you have an answer ready to go, you're very welcome to go first, because
yeah,
I have like three brewing, and
I've got one ready to go. No, it's not Dota. For me, a special moment of play was, I think, in 2016, I curated an exhibition called Contours. This was in partnership with the City of Melbourne at Library at the Dock. And we put it together. There was 3 of us on the team that put it together, myself, Ben Turner, and Pradika Sachdev. And it was an exhibition that explored the fringes of the Australian independent games community. And after having set it all up, I think it was the second day that we had it. The exhibition ran for about a month in the gallery space of the library. And on the second day, I decided to visit just to see how the games were running, and I witnessed this beautiful moment of 3 Muslim hijab-wearing women coming out of the elevator. One of them was in a wheelchair. They came straight out of the elevator into the gallery space, and they realized that there were video games there, and they sat down and they started to play. And to me, that was such a special moment, because all of the games on display were local. There were Australian games, and had it not been for that exhibition, I don't think those games would have reached an audience like that. And so I constantly think about that moment and what it enabled. And that sort of drives me to keep enabling moments like that.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful contrast. We got 1,000 years and this intimate moment. It's lovely.
How you doing? Have you got one?
Oh yeah, I can go. Mine's just like a feel-good story, I think, but I think about it all the time. I have little brothers, they're twins. They are 11 and a half years younger than me. And so we've always been very close, but we haven't always had the same interests. And when Elden Ring came out, we had some interests in common. I had actually not played a FromSoft game. I've played several since. It really got me in. But I had this real experience with, we played a lot online. They live in Geelong, I live in Melbourne. So we played a lot like online, and it was the first experience I had with these like people who like, I taught them how to ride bikes. I had always been in the teaching position, and now they were in the teaching position with me. And I could like hear them like saying things that I remember saying to them when they were
Pedal
like
faster,
7.
pedal faster.
Yeah, that's right. Get back on it. Yeah. Stop being such a loser. No, opposite. Total opposite. Them being like, you know, there was one time we were like up against Radahn or whatever, and we got down to quarter health and then like couldn't get it all the way. I died, and like my brother Jan over voice chat being like, I know that you're frustrated, but I totally understand that you're frustrated, but actually like this is really good because you can already see like what mistake you made, and that means that you're learning, and like we're gonna go back in and we're gonna crush it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. And it was just like this real moment of like this reversal of like a power dynamic we'd never really talked about or like acknowledged, where I was like, oh yeah, we're meeting as adults in this game and you have something to teach me now. And it's very beautiful. Yeah, I know Elden Ring is one that my brothers have had long and enthusiastic relationship with. They also had a friend who they have like tournaments in the game with their like PvP combat that they have developed like all of these very specific like rules and regulations around, including like a whole bunch of rituals, very, very dedicated. But when they were in year 12, one of their friends' mental health became really bad and was hospitalized for a period. And when he came out of hospital, he like still was like in a very heightened, anxious state and would like find it quite stressful like participating. And so they made like a ceremonial role for him in these games where like he like had a particular, I can't remember what it was because it's a faith build thing and that's not my thing, but like he would like do a particular spell that like released this like golden like shower over everything, and then like do a particular emote, and then it was like, okay, now the PvP can begin. And like that was their way of like making sure that he felt really meaningfully included, which I thought was very beautiful.
Thanks, Ginny. Yeah, inclusion's not always the ways in which we are presented with it. Sometimes we got to create it and create it anew. Dakota.
I feel like we could give each of us like 100 stories of ways in which play has like been foundational to who we are as people. A little over a year ago, I got married, and thank you. I'm pretty happy with it as well. But to completely deviate, this is not a story about my wife, who was amazing, but a lot of the guests we had in attendance were friends from around the country and around the world, many of whom we had met playing video games. And it was a really, I was reflecting on this again recently because I also acknowledged a few of these people as part of my doctoral research. But amazing that in 4,500 hours of playing Counter-Strike, that I could meet people that I actually wanted to spend more time with, not less. And I feel really blessed to have been able to go into spaces that are like notoriously toxic and competitive and combative, and find people for whom like play and curiosity and camaraderie are important values, and then invite them kind of on a whim to fly halfway around the country or the world to my wedding, and for them all to show up. I didn't have any like, oh no, I can't make it. And that was, yeah, a little over a year ago. And then about 3 weeks ago, we all caught up again. We all went to Mount Buller to go skiing together. We had close to 20 of us, all staying in the same venue. Friends and partners. I don't have 20 people that I can tolerate playing Counter-Strike. There's not that many, not that many good ones out there. But these moments, you know, these moments that I think about and are kind of defined as like intense or stressful or frustrating moments, but the outcome of those moments is something really pure. And I think that's a really potent metaphor for the ongoing work that we do.
Thank you, Dakota, and collective congratulations on our behalves as well. Paul, a final thought from you around.
Yeah, not Frostbite. I don't replay a lot of games. I tend to be like one and done. I do every like maybe 2 or 3 years I replay Mass Effect, the trilogy, because I love it. But I also Shadow of the Colossus, Ico, Last Guardian, the most phenomenal games. I'd played Ico and Shadow of the Colossus a lot, but I'd only played Last Guardian once when it was released. And I was talking to some developer friends, and like we kind of the topic of Last Guardian came up. I was like, oh, I should go and replay that. And so it'd been like 6 or 7 years since I played it. And my wife doesn't play games, so I'm playing it. She's off to bed. But my 2 cats are there. And I knew like the final shot in Last Guardian, like that shot, anyone who knows, is one of the single greatest like moments in video games. Just beautifully punctuated and beautifully landed. And playing the game and knowing what, kind of having that hindsight, but also having forgotten so much of the game. But also like, there's a photograph I have where I'm playing the game and my cat jumps up in front of the TV, and Trico looks like he's looking at one of my cats as well. And it that serendipitous set of moments where you think about play, not just as a thing that we do as people, but about the relationships you have with nature. Because I think that fundamentally, you know, Who It Is games are about relationships and about nature and about reductionism and about those particular dynamics with the world, and about sympathy and empathy and non-human intelligences frequently. And I think that, for me, reminds me that we are just animals and chemicals and stumbling through that stuff together. And I think like that, ultimately art should always be a reminder of nature. And I think that the relationship of video game and my cats and me and my wife as well together in a house was comfort. And so I think that to me is part of it.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you all for giving your molecular presences and time here. I'd like you to join me in thanking this very generous and lovely panel. Thank you for your time. And we in MAGPIE really hope that this is one conversation as part of many, many, many conversations to come. Thank you, folks. I believe there's some thank yous to make as well from the team. Or else we can just we can wind up. Great, I'm getting the wind up sign, which is lovely. So once again, thank you for being here at the launch of MAGPIE. If you want to know more about MAGPIE, you can come and meet us and we'll chat to you about it. But for now, please have a drink, enjoy yourselves, play some games, chat to some people, and thank you once again.